ओमज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगणरघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं श्रीकृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधाकृष्णपादान् सहगणललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च। हे कृष्णा करुणा सिंधो दीनबंधो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमोस्तुते। तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। नमो महावदान्याय कृष्णा प्रेम प्रदायिने कृष्णाय कृष्णा चैतन्य नाम्ने गौरत्विषे नमः। पञ्चतत्त्वात्मकं कृष्णं भक्तरूपस्वरूपकं भक्तावतारं भक्ताख्यं नमामि भक्तशक्तिकं। श्रीकृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंदा श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासदि गौरभक्तवृंदा। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। जन्माद्यस्य यतोऽन्वयादितरतश्चार्थे सुभिज्यस्वराट् तेने ब्रह्म हृदय आदिकवये मुह्यन्ति यत्सूरयः। तेजो वारिमृदां यथा विनिमयो यत्र त्रिसर्गो मृषा धाम्ना स्वेन सदा निरस्तकुहकं सत्यं परं धीमहि। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत्। स्वस्ति अस्तु विश्वस्य खलः प्रसीदतां ध्यायन्तु भूतानि शिवं मिथो धिया। मनश्च भद्रं भजतादधोक्षजे आवेश्यतां नो मतिरप्यहेतुकी। Reading from Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 14, Verse number 3. They are prayers of Sri Brahma to Sri Krishna after he saw the supreme majesty of Krishna. Then he got down from his carrier and repeatedly fell at the feet of Krishna and then began reciting the stotra, Brahma Stuti. So in the first sloka he described the person Krishna who was standing in front of him, and in the second one he said that it is not possible for him to know him because he is so insignificant, and out of his pride he thought that he can bewilder him. And therefore he thought that he has offended him. So now in this sloka, number 3, he speaks about just being a devotee, and that is the only way that he can be understood, not by anything else. So jnane prayasam udpasya namanta eva जीवन्ति सन्मुखरितां भवदीय वार्तां स्थाने स्थिता श्रुति गतां तनुवाग मनोभिर ये प्रायशो जिता जितोप्यसि तैस्त्रिलोक्यां. So those devotees who give up any effort to understand him through knowledge, only jnane prayasam udpasya, because Gyan is also a separate path, Gyan Yoga, and they just bow down to him. Namantaiva jivanti sanmukharitam bhavdiya vartam. They live by listening to your varta, your katha, your pastime, which flows from the mouth of devotees. And remaining in their place, they bow down to you with their body, speech and mind, while the katha goes into their ears. And although you are called Ajita, means unconquerable one, invincible one, cannot be conquered by anyone, but Jitopyasi Taistrilokyam, but you become conquered by them in these 3 worlds. So in other words, that although there is no one who can conquer you in the 3 worlds, but devotees, you become controlled by them. Aham bhakti paradhino. He himself says that I am under the control of my devotees. So Sri Vishwanath Chakravarti says, Nanu tarhi tameva viditva ati mrityumeti iti shruter ajnanat lokah katham sansaram tareyu statra. So in the previous sloka he says that asyapi devapso madanugraha swesvechamaya natu bhutmaya kopi Nese mahitva avasitum manasa antarena sakshat tave vikim atma sukhanubhute. That he cannot understand, and if Brahma cannot understand, then nobody can understand. So there is a statement in the Shruti, tameva viditva ati mrityumeti nanyo pantha vidyate ainaya, that only by knowing him one can transcend mrityu, and there is no other way to reach him, to get out of this material world. So now the question which is being raised here is that if this is the case, if the Shruti is saying this, that only by knowing him you can go beyond this material world, Atimrityam. So Atimrityam means beyond death, it also means Vaikuntha. So, and if Brahma cannot know him, that means nobody can know him. It says, Nese mahitva visitum kopi, that even Brahma cannot understand. Manasantarena sakshat tave. Even with concentrated mind he cannot know. So then who else would know him? And if that is the case, then that means nobody can get out of this material world. That is the natural conclusion. So therefore it says, Iti sruter ajnanat loka katham sansaram tarei. So how will people cross over this ocean of the material world? So then Brahma speaks this verse. in response to that. That jnane prayasam udpasya namanta eva. So main thing is namanta eva. Because nobody wants to bow down. Everybody thinks I am supreme. I know better than you. So why shall I bow down to you? And that is the cause of remaining here in the material world. That's why Mahaprabhu said, become blade of grass. Tranadapi sunichena. Down. What can be lower than blade of grass? Grass is already on the ground. So he says, go to the basement. He says, go lower than that. So he says that namanta eva. So that is the meaning of namanta eva, means to understand that if Brahma is such a great person and he is saying it, then who are we? Because everybody has got this pride inside and everybody has got something to be proud of. Right? It may be birth, it may be education, it may be appearance, beauty, eyes, hair color, right? Anything. So many things, skin color. Yeah, people are proud of so many things. So he says that that is not the way that you can understand him. The only way to understand it is as Brahma himself is falling down the ground. He is showing by a practical example. He is not just saying it. It was said there that bhuyo bhuyo utthaya utthaya, that standing up, going down, patan, aste. Right? He was remaining on the ground for a long time. Patan aste means lying on the ground. So although deva bhuvim nas prashanti, the devas, they don't touch the ground, but he did that, not touching with his feet but with his whole full body, with his head. So he is speaking from his experience. So therefore he says, jnane prayasam udpasya. Don't think that you can understand, because our knowledge is very limited. Everything is limited. Body is limited, and what it can contain is very limited. Whatever you can do is very limited. So he says that it is only by his grace that it is possible. Therefore he says, jnane prayasam udpasya namanta eva jivanti sanmukharitam bhavadiya varta. And then this is the way to live. So you have to live by remaining humble. Namanta and jivanti. So this is the way to lead life. And hearing Krishna Katha. It's very simple. So udpasya isadapi akritva. So udpasya means completely giving up. So apasya, asukshepana dhatu, up, asya and ut. So completely giving up this idea of jnana. And sanmukharitam santo maun salinopi swamadhuryena mukharita mukharikrita yayatam. And you have to hear Krishna Katha, but you have to hear it sanmukharitam. It has to come from the mouth of the sadhus, devotees, not asadhus, non-devotees or other people or who have some other motive. So although the sadhus, they are maun shalina, they like to remain quiet, because what is the point in talking about so many mundane topics? Yes, as Sukdev Goswami, Parikshit, Sukdev said, Shrotavyani Santi Sahasrasa. And there are thousands of topics for materialistic people to talk and hear. But there is no tattva in them. So therefore sadhus are maunashali. But the thing which come out from their mouth is Krishna Katha. Svamadhuryena mukharita mukharikrita. And why it comes out from their mouth? He says because of Krishna's sweetness. Krishna's sweetness makes them speak. He is so wonderful, he is so great, so compassionate, so loving that they like to speak about him. So therefore Sanmukharita, Mukharikrita. Mukharita means Mukharikrita, that comes from their mouth. Tam, so that has to be heard. Bhavdiya nam ya varta. So this Bhavdiya varta, it can be that varta, your varta or your devotee's varta, both. So he says Bhavdiya nam va varta. Just like Anukullena Krishnānusilanam. Krishnānusilanam means Anusilan of Krishna and Tat Sambandhi Vastu. The objects, people related to Krishna, not just Krishna. The Anusilan service to Krishna and his devotees, his objects, his dham, his abode, anything which is directly related to him. Indirectly everything is related to him only. So therefore Bhavdiya Varta is Katha, stories about Krishna and also of his devotees. So who would not like to hear that? Parikshit said that Vinapasugnat. Right? So Svadu Svadu Padam Pade Pade. So it is sweet, wonderful at every step. So Maunashalino api Svamadhuryena mukharita mukharikrita yatam bhavdiya namya va varta. Sthane sthita. So sthane sthita means staying in the place. Whose place? Place of devotees. Otherwise everybody is staying in the place. Sthane sthita simply means staying in place. So who is not staying in place? Wherever you are in some place. So what is the speciality of saying it? So therefore it says Sthane satam nivase eva sthita, that you live with devotees. Because that's where you will get the chance to hear. Of course now you can hear through internet. You can remain in your own sthan and you can hear. Otherwise in the olden days you have to go to devotees and hear, otherwise how do you hear them? Either they have to come to you or you have to go to them. So if they come to you, they will come for a short time. If you want more time, you go to them. So he says sthana means satam nivaseva. So you live with them, you be in their residence. Sthita natu tirthan niyapi atantaha. Not that you are wandering Radhakund, Govardhan, Barsana, here, there, right? Look what he is saying. Vishwanath Chakravarti is saying this. Chalo Haridwar, Rishikesh.
Yogi Aditya visited Vinod Bihari today.
So, yeah, it is good for him to visit, but not that we have to visit. So he says, Tirthani api atanta, na tu tirthani. So if you go to Tirtha, that is only to meet devotees. So that is good. Yogi Adityanath is going to Barsana and meeting Baba Vinod Bihari. That is good. So if you go to Barsana, if you go to Radhakund, that is only to meet devotees, not for just making a round, right? So doing parikrama, this, that. So he says, Natu tirthani api atantaha. Santaha Shrutigatam Tat Sannidhi Matrena Svateva Shrutigatam. Because if you live with devotees, then it will enter into your ear. Even if you are not trying to hear, still it will enter. Because they talk, whatever they say, it will be about Krishna. So therefore, Shrutigatam, Tanubhritam. So, Shravan Praptam, Tanuvag Manobhir, Arambha Parisamaptyo Namanta. So therefore you bow down from beginning to end with your body, speech and mind. So tatra, how do you bow down with these three things? Is tatra tanva panibhyam sah shirshna bhumisparshena. So with body you take your hands and touch your head to the ground. So that is with the body. And vacha Krishna kathaye tadasvadakebhyah vaishnavabhyascha namanta iti vachnena. And with speech you say, I bow down to those who are listening to Krishna katha. I bow down to Krishna katha. And those who are listening to it, who are tasting it. So tadasvadakebhyah vaishnavabhyah, all the Vaishnavas, Vaishnavabhya Namo Namo. So you say it with your speech. So that is with Tanu Vang. And then Manas iti vachnena manasa shrutaya kathaya avdharikaya buddhya pranamanto ye jivanti. And then whatever you have heard the katha, then with your buddhi which holds, because mind comes, things come in mind and go, but you capture it with your buddhi, with your medha. So then with that you pay respect. Pranamanto ye jivanti. So those who live like this, kevalam yaddapi nanyat kurvanti. So even if you do this and do nothing else, this itself is very pleasing. That's what was said in the Bhāgavatam in the very beginning. So sadhya hridya vrudhyate atra kritibhi shushrushabhi statakshanat. Right? Shushrushabhi means they are desiring to hear. And Krishna becomes situated in their heart immediately. So this hearing. So Śrīmad Ganantasya Sacheshtritam Kalena Nati Dirghena Bhagavan Vistehani. So hearing Katha every day, then Krishna enters in the heart. And then Dhanoti Sarvam Samalam Bhava Sarvaroham. So then he purifies. So that is the power of hearing. So tai prayas trilokyam annair ajitopi tvam jitopi vashikritoopi bhavasi. So by them, you who are not conquered by anybody in the three worlds, you become conquered, you come under their control. Jnanat labdhamukti bhistu na vasikrito bhavasi. But those who are trying to attain mukti through the path of jnana, aham brahmasmi, then you don't become under their control. You are not controlled by them. Atah samsar taranam katha shrotrinam kim chitram iti bhava. So therefore, if devotees will cross over this material world, then what is the big surprise in it? Tesham aham samudharta mrityu sansara sagarat bhavami nacharat parthya maya veshati chetasam. Krishna himself says with his own lotus mouth that I will uplift them from this bhavasagar. There is no doubt about it. Atastvat kathaika des jnanameva taj jnanam Tena sansaramupi taranti iti shruti artha niyayati. So therefore, what is the meaning of that shruti by which he started the Purupaksha? Tameva viditvati mrityumeti nanya pantha vidyate ainaya. What is the meaning of this now in the context of this verse? So he says that meaning is that only those who know him through his katha, even if you know one part of his katha, they have the knowledge. And that is the meaning tameva, because that is the meaning of knowing him. You will know by hearing his katha, about his katha. So then he says that they only can cross over this material world, not those who are trying to know him without devotion. That is the meaning of the sloka.
लास्ट में क्या बोले? विदाउट सुनाई नहीं दिया.
Without bhakti.
ओके, थैंक यू.
Any other question on this sloka? Otherwise we move to the next one. Yeah.
Okay, so my question is on actually the tika that Sri Jiva Goswami gives on this one. There he says something which might be difficult to understand, and I would like to hear your explanations. So, when he glosses this jnani, this jnani prayasam, he says jnani means tvadiya, svarupa, aishwarya, mahima, vichare. So, one could now understand, I mean, taking this isolated out of context, obviously one could now understand that that this prayasa, this effort for jnana, what does it mean jnana here? It doesn't mean Brahman realization or something like that. It means to, as he says, tvadiya, svarupa, aishwarya, mahima, vichar. So to deliberate on, the glories of Bhagavan. And now this could mean that even studying the glories of Bhagavan and deliberating on that and deliberating on the tattva of Bhagavan, that this is what Brahma here actually refutes. And then we've heard also in Chaitanya Charitamrita, in Ramananda Samvada, this one is also picked up. And there Mahaprabhu also speaks about this Jnana Shunya Bhakti. And could you maybe explain how to understand this properly?
So what is it? You better read the whole sentence. What is it saying?
Okay. Jnani tvadiya svarupa aishwarya mahima vichare sthani satam nivasa eva avyagrataya stita natutirta yatra klesham sahanta. Yeah, I don't know, he doesn't seem to speak much more on this point here.
And before that he says anything about it or no?
I mean, just the pratik is ata eva bhaktas tad anveshana shramam parityajya bhakti vishesha rupa taya tvadiya rupa guna lila vartam eva shrinvanti tena vashikurvanti cha tadrisham api iti aha jnana iti. Then jnane tvadiya svarupa aishwarya mahima vichara. So I'm not so clear how to understand this here.
Yeah, I mean, to me it looks like what he's saying is that the way Brahma was seeing his majesty and trying to understand independently, because he himself is saying that you should hear about his Rupa Gun Leela later on. So one is trying to understand his Swarupa independently, other is hearing from the devotees. That's what it seems, he seems to be saying that. So means you hear.
So then what Brahma here is rejecting is this independent deliberation on...
Yeah, if you try to understand yourself, then it is not possible. So then he says, Sanmukharitam Bhavdiya Vartam. That hear from devotees.
I see. So that even if I do deliberations on the glories of Bhagavan and his greatness, then and of his devotees, then still this is not the proper way to...
Yeah, unless you have met
realize.
devotees, what will you do now? Because you have heard and you do, it is not independent. You have already heard from devotees. But imagine that you have no contact with devotees and you want to understand Krishna independently. So what will you understand? You will understand only from your own sanskaras. Right? You will think, well, he is doing this, he is stealing, he is like me only. I also stole, he is also stealing. So you start thinking like that. And then you see his mahima, try to understand, then either you will think he is false or it is wrong or it is... I mean, you will make your own concept. This will be material. So that's what it says, that you give up that effort. And that's what it means.
Is working? But isn't also Jiva Goswami saying that, or implying here that those who focus on the Bhāgavata aspect of Krishna cannot enter Vraj? You also have to give in order to enter Vraj, we have to give up that as well. We have to know that, but we have to give it up completely in order to enter Vraj Bhav.
Yeah, but I don't think he's mentioning that here.
May I ask a question?
Yes.
Maybe I missed this, but this Sthane Sthita, is there any way it's interpreted as staying in one varnashram, a social class?
Yeah, it can be interpreted that way. I mean, this is one interpretation he's given.
But if we take that, then wouldn't it, in some sense, contradict the words by Narad Muni that the famous one, they told Vedavyas that even if one leaves varnashrama, what has he, even if he follows it, what has he gained if he does not do bhakti?
Yeah, so this verse is not saying that you stay in varnashram and don't do bhakti. It's saying...
That was also said that if one leaves one's dharma and does bhakti, that is, he still has much to gain. There's no loss, even if he gives up swadharma. Bhakta swadharma prana.
No, that's all right, but he's saying that if you give up and do bhakti, that is fine, but you can also do bhakti and not give up. He's not denying that. So it can be taken that way. Slokas can be interpreted in different ways, but the intention is that one should do bhakti.
Stanestitam, maybe stay in your bhajan, don't leave your bhajan. Stanestitam, stay in your bhajan, stay with your bhajan, don't leave your bhajan.
No, sthan does not mean bhajan. Sthan means place.
Place.
That is too much of stretch.
Yeah, also.
Yeah.
I had a question on this phrase, as Vilas was asking about Udapasya. prayasam udapasya, because I'm seeing a translation which I think is not right, and I wanted to ask you if you could again translate the second explanation of Vishwanath exactly, what he says on this.
Translate which one?
Translate the second sentence when he explains about udapasya.
Udapasya ishadapi akritva.
Prayasam. Yes.
So udapasya means not even making a little effort. That will say ishadapi akritva. Means not making any effort for jnana.
This jnana is the one which we understand the same as Anyabhilashita Samya?
That one, but now it's according to Jiva Goswami's commentary, even effort to understand him, his Swarupa or his Aishwarya. That also. And also wandering in the Tirtha. That is also prayas.
One.
So next sloka is now speaking about bhakti. So this is establishing bhakti by Vyatireka. This sloka number 3. Right? Vyatireka means? You remember that?
Negative comments.
Yeah, but you had another word.
Oh,
And now,
affirmative, disaffirmative. Disaffirmative.
yes, and now with affirmative. So this is called Anvaya. So now he speaks of bhakti with Anvaya. Shreya Sritim Bhakti Mudasyate Vibho Klishyanti Ye Keval Bodh Labdhaye. Now this is also Vyatireka only. It's not Anvaya. So Shreya Sritim Bhakti Mudasyate Vibho Klishyanti. Previous one was Anvaya because he was saying this is Vyatireka, this is disaffirmative. Also that has Jnanam Prayasam Udpasya was there. But here is speaking about bhakti itself. That Shreya Sritim Bhakti Mudasyate Vibho Klishyanti Ye Keval Bodha Labdhaye Tesham Asau Kleshal Eva Shishyate Nanyad Yatha Stula Tushavaghatinam. This is a famous verse. I think most devotees know this verse. Those who are preachers, it is on the tip of their tongue. So he says that those who give up bhakti, bhaktim udasya. So previously it was jnanam udpasya, that give up jnana. Now he is saying that if you give up bhakti, then what happens? So there it was saying that you give up jnana and take to bhakti, and here it's saying that if you don't take to bhakti, what is the outcome? So that is the anvaya, this is vyatirek. So bhakti mudasya, and what is bhakti? Bhakti is a shreya sritim. Bhakti is the path of auspiciousness. It is the only thing which brings auspiciousness. It is the only thing which brings ultimate good to you. Auspiciousness here is not some material auspiciousness, like if you throw some rice, that is auspicious, or chant some mantra. No, this is ultimately good. That's the Shreya. Shreyas and Prayas, you know that. So Shreyas Sritim, this is the path of Shreyas, Bhakti. And if one gives up this, Udasyate Vibho, O Vibhu, O Lord, then what is the outcome? Klishyanti. Then they only get klesha. In English you have clash. In Sanskrit you have clash. So then you will be only getting clash everywhere with everybody. And that is suffering. No harmony. So klishyanti. And ye keval bodh labdhe, and they only try for keval bodh, means impersonal jnana. So for them there is only suffering. and tesam asau kleshal eva shishyate. So they suffer while they are practicing, and the result is also suffering. So kleshala, the outcome is also kleshala. Kleshala means which gives klesha. What they are going to get will give them klesha, will give them suffering. So they get something which may look good, but it will bring suffering. So tesham asau kleshala eva shishyate, and then this is made understandable by one example. He says, yatha sthula tushavghatinam. So you want rice. So if you want rice, you have to get paddy from the field, then beat it, you get rice. But what you see is that in the field there is big stack of husk. The rice has been taken away, you see the big stack and you say, oh, I want rice, and you start beating it. So you go on beating whole day, then maybe a few grains you get here and there which somehow escaped. So nothing more than that. So therefore it says, Nanyat yatha sthula tushavghatinam. So tushavghat, beating the husk, beating the chaff. So you are not going to get anything more than that. So that is the comparison. So Sravana Kirtanadinam ek tarayapi bhaktya kritarthi bhavanti. So even if you take one limb of bhakti, simply hearing, as it was said in the previous ones, that just listening Shrutigatam Tanu Vagamanobhi. So you become perfected simply by following even one limb of bhakti, if you can do that. Shravan, Kirtan, Manan, anything. Yaduktam Nrsimha Purana, as it is said in Nrsimha Purana, Patresu Pushpeshu Phaleshu Toyeshu Akrit Labhyesu Sadaiva Satsu Bhaktya Sulabhye Purushe Purane Mukte Kimartham Kriyate Prayatna. So Bhagavan is easily available by bhakti. How easily? He says that you can just offer a leaf, a flower, a fruit, or even water. Toyeshu akrita labhya. These things are available without buying. No need to even buy them from the market. Akrita labhyeshu. So freely available. Sadaiva satsu bhaktya sulabhye purushe purane. So if this Puran Purusha, the primeval person, Bhagavan, is easily available through bhakti, then why do you want to make an effort for mukti? Mukte kimartham prayasa. So mukte kimartham kriyate prayatna. Why are you working hard for mukti? If rice is available in the kitchen, why are you beating the husk in the heat? Just get the rice and eat and get nourishment. Sweet rice? I don't know about the sweet rice part, but at least rice is there. Tadapi ye tam parihaya jnane prayasvantastesham dukhameva phaltitya. So although bhakti is so easily available, so there are many statements about bhakti being easy and simple, right? But still people want to do prayas, effort, because unless you do some effort, you are not satisfied. So then you get klesha, then you have to work hard to remove the kleshas, and then in the process you cannot do bhakti. So he says that if you do not take to bhakti, you give up this bhakti which can be executed easily and make an effort for jnana, then the result is dukkha only, suffering. Shreyasham abuddhya apavarga lakshananam shriti smaranam. So he says that this bhakti is Shreya Shriti. It is the path of Shreyas, and it's interesting that he says that it is Abhyudaya and Apavarga Lakshananam. What is the Shreyas? He says it gives you both. It will give you material happiness also, that is Abhyudaya, and also Apavarga, also freedom from bondage to the material world. Both are available through bhakti. So why work for jnana then? So sarasaiva nirjharanam. So just like the stream and the lake, so the water is coming from the stream. Tam tav bhakti udasya iti Sri Swami Charananam Vyakhya. So Swamiji, Sridhar Swami has also explained it like that. Shreyansi Gyan Karmadi Nana Sadhan Sadhyani Phalani. So whatever is available through the path of Gyan, Karma, Yoga, etc., all these different means, all that is available through bhakti. So Sarv Siddhinam Moolam Tam Charanam Bhujam. The lotus feet of Krishna, they are the root of all the siddhis. So why work for those things, giving up the bhakti? So ya eva syus tam bhaktim tyaktva. So all these results which you can get through bhakti, sarvam mad bhakti yogena mad bhakto labte anjasa. Swarga purga. Anything, whatever you want, my devotee can easily get through my bhakti. So then why we have to work for that? That is what is being described here. So tesham asau bodha kleshla klesham lati dadati. So then they work for this gyan, bodha means gyan. Then what does it give them? Only kleshal, which brings them suffering. Sasishyate paryavashito bhavati. Only that's the only thing which remains. Tatra drishtanta sthula tushavghatinam alpa pramanam tandulam paritajya yatastata parishramya aniya parvata pramanam sthula tushpunjam sanchitya tasya antakarana antahakarnhina dhanyabhas sya avghatam kurvatam jananam yatha sa sthula tusha kleshla kevalam hastadi vedana matra falpad. So you give up the tandula, means the uncooked rice, it's called tandula, which is small in size. So you are not satisfied, you want a big heap, so you collect all the husk from here and there and make a big mountain of it. Because rice is small, husk is big. So big looks more appealing than small rice. Right? You may have one bag of rice and big pile of husks. So you say, I want the husk, not this. Like Arjuna and Duryodhana, they went to Krishna before the battle to take his help. So Krishna said, on one side I will be there, and on the other side my army, Narayan Sena. So take whatever you want. So one is small, Krishna, other is the big husk. So Duryodhana was thinking, I want the husk. Arjuna says, I want the rice. So Arjuna got the first choice, he says, I want Krishna. Duryodhana was also happy, both were happy. See, Krishna is so smart, he satisfied both of them. Right? He played such a game that both parties completely satisfied. So Duryodhana was very happy that he got the big pile of husk. And he was thinking, this Arjuna is foolish, he got this Krishna who is not even going to fight. Right? So that's how people think. So that's why he's saying that he got a parvat pramanam sthulatus punjam sanchitya. He makes a big collection of husk like a big mountain, and then he beats it whole day, and then in the end nothing comes except that his hands are paining. So he says hastadi vedana matra phal prada. The only outcome is pain in the hands. That's what they get. So that is sthulata savghatinam. And then one more we can do. पुरयः भूमन् बहवोऽपि योगिनस्त्वदर्पिते हा निज कर्म लब्धया विबुध्य भक्त्यैव कथोपनीतया प्रपेदिरेञ्जो च्युतते गतिं पराम्. So now he has stated the principle, then he gives an example. Right? When you make the Panchaveva, the 5-part syllogism, you give the principle. Yatra yatra dhuma tatra tatra vanni. This is the principle. Wherever there is smoke, there is fire. Then you have to give also an example. Yatha mahanasam. So he has given the principle. Now he is giving example of that. So it becomes pakka. So Pureha Bhuman Bahavopi Yogini says, O Bhuman, O great Lord, in the past, many yogis, they gave up their yoga practice. Bahavopi Yoginas Todarpiteha Nij Karma Labdhya. So by offering their karmas to you, Vibuddhya Bhakteva Kathopanitya, they understood you through bhakti in the form of katha. Katha Upanitya Bhakti, or bhakti which was acquired through bhakti. Prapedire anjo chutte gatim param, and they achieved your destination easily. Anja means without much difficulty. O Achyuta. So previous one he was saying kleshala, and here he is using the word anja. So anja means without much difficulty, without that hard labor, without big tapasya. And here he says anja chuta te gatim param prapedire. So without much problem they attained here. So एवं श्लोक द्वयेन अन्वय व्यतिरेकाभ्याम भगवत प्राप्तो भक्तिमेव स्थिरीकृत्य तत्र सदाचारम प्रमाणयति पुरोहिति. So in the 2 slokas, by explaining that only bhakti is the means to attain Bhagwan through Anvaya and Vyatireka, and thus establishing this principle, he gives an example of the saintly people. He Bhuman, he Prabhu. So Bhuman means O Lord. Iha Jagati Yogino Bhakti Yogavanta eva. So yogi here means bhakti yogis. Evam Tvai eva arpita iha cheshta. So they offered all their cheshta, all their actions only to you. Means they work only for you. Krishna Karma Krit, doing work only for him. So yais tvad bhakti artham eva sarvendriya vyaparam. So all the movements of their senses are only for the sake of bhakti and not for anything else. This is the meaning Kurvana Tirtha. Bhakti yoga Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam varnashram karma anadhikarat nij karma shravan kirtanadi eva. So he says that those who take to bhakti, or those who have Shraddha in bhakti, tavat karmani kurvin na nirvidyeta yavata mat katha shravanadava Shraddha yavan na jayate. So those who get Shraddha in Bhakti, they do not have the adhikar in Varnashrama. So Varnashram karma adhikarat. So therefore taking that these yogis here, Purehe Bhuvan Bhavopi Yogina, taking these yogis as devotees, so that means that these devotees do not have adhikar for karma. So then this nij karma labdhaya, then this karma is not varnashram karma, then this is the karma which is activities in relationship with bhakti. That's how he is interpreting it. So therefore he says nij karma. What is that nij karma? There nij karma labdhaya shravana kirtana adi eva. So karma or action in the form of shravan, kirtan and so on. Tena labdhya. So having attained through that, vishestastu kathaya sruta kirtita smritaya upadhikyena nitaya. And specifically out of various activities of bhakti, hearing katha, because it says katha upnitaya. Bhaktya eva katha upnitaya. So although he uses the word bhakti, but then he says katha upnitaya bhakti. So specific. So this importance of hearing katha is stressed by Brahma here. In the earlier sloka also and here also. So Sruta Kirtita Smritaya. So hearing about his glories and then remembering that. Upadhikyena Nitaya. So Upnitaya. Nitaya means brought. And Up is used here in the sense of Adhikya. So Parardhe Harer Guna. This will come in Karak Prakarana. So Upa also used in the sense of more. The qualities of Hari are more than Parardha. Upparardhe Harer Guna. Jiva Goswami gave this example to show the meaning of Upa as Adhik. Adhikya Artha. So that's in the sense of Upnitaya here. So Prapitaya Bhaktya means that bhakti is attained through this. So then what is the meaning Adhikyena Upnitaya? It's a Prem Lakshana here. So means bhakti which is characterized with prema. Prem Lakshana here. Vibudhya Vigyaya. So having known that Tadrupa Guna Leeladikam Anubhuya Ityartha. So knowing here means having experience of it. So having experience of Rup, Guna and Leela of Bhagavan. Param Premvat Parshadvat Lakshnam Gatim Prapta. So Param Gatim. Prapedire Param Gatim. Right? Te Param Gatim Prapedire. So what is this Paragati here? So that it describes that it is attaining the state of Parshadas who have prema for Krishna. Premvat Parshadatu Lakshanam Gatim. So this is one explanation of the sloka. He also gives an alternative explanation where he takes normal meaning of yogi. Yadva yatha keval bodho vifala tatha keval yogascha. He said just as keval bodha labdhaya was said in the previous sloka. Right? Shreya Shrutim Bhakti Mudasyate Vibhoklishanti Ye Keval Bodha Labdhaya. They endeavor only for Keval Bodha means to have Brahman realization. So in the same way here Yogina he says are like those who are Keval Yogis. They only want to follow yoga and not anything else. So Keval Yogo Vifalas Tatha Keval Yogescha Iti Atra Sadacharam Pramaneti. So just as Keval Bodha is futile, in the same way Keval Yoga is also futile. So therefore he is speaking this verse. So he says that the previous was for the Jnanis and this is for the Yogis. So Bahukalam Yogino Bhutvapi Yogam Nisfalam Gyatva Tvai Arpita Hiya Chesta. So they practiced yoga for a long time in Rishikesh. And then nothing much came out of it. So then they gave up that. And then they took to bhakti. So tvadarpiteha. That is the meaning. So he is taking that pureha bhuman bhavapi yogina. Many yogis in the past, they offered their chesta to you. So they offered chesta to you after they realized that this yoga is not working. That's the meaning. So iha chesta cha and nij karma cha tabhyam labdhya bhaktya. So that means they are offering their works to Krishna. So this is Gyan Mishra Bhakti. This is not what he said in the previous explanation as Prema Bhakti. Here he says this is Gyan Mishra. So Vibuddhya Tvam Gyatva. So why he says this is Gyan Mishra Bhakti? Because he says Vibuddhya, knowing you. This means acquiring knowledge of you. So previously the meaning of Vibuddhya was to having experience of your Rupa, Guna and Lila, and here it is experience or in the sense of having knowledge. So they have attained you. This is an alternative explanation. So I will stop here if there is any question.
Babaji Maharaj.
Yeah.
So I am this Keval Bodha is like following only the Gyan mark. And he is explained that Keval Bodha.
Yeah.
So then after that in the next line, why is he saying this Gyan Mishrit?
Which line? You're talking about
Keval Bodho, Yama Keval Yoga. Then he is saying Cha Nidikaram Cha Tapyam Labdhya Bhaktya Gyan Mishret Vibuddhya Tvam Gyatva.
yeah.
Basically, like first he is taking the example of pure Gyan Marg. Then he is taking pure yoga. So third point which he is making of Gyan Mishra, I am not able to understand that. Why
It's
he is
not
making
third
Gyan
point.
Mishra.
No, you have not understood. What he is saying is that in the previous sloka, there was talk about Keval Bodha.
Okay.
If you remember the previous sloka, it says Keval Bodha Labdhe. Klishyanti ye Keval Bodha Labdhe. So the previous sloka was talking about Keval Bodha. And here in this sloka, the word is used yogina. Pureha bhuvan bhavopi yogina. He is not saying Keval yogina, but he is applying that Keval here. That he said just like there it was Keval Bodha, here this yogi means Keval yogi. And then this Keval yogi is also, they are smarter than the Keval Bodha, that they give up their Keval yoga and offer their activities to Krishna. And then they get bhakti. So that bhakti is Gyan Mishra Bhakti.
So when these Keval yogis offer their activities, so like before they offer their activities, they would have come in contact with the Bhakta, because we did that only through Bhakti you can get. So when he is making an effort and he is not getting any result, then he, by Krishna's grace, he would have come in contact with the Bhakta and offered it. Is it like that?
Yeah.
Another point I just wanted to clarify is that when it is being said that Bhakti is simple, so does it mean that just by following one name of Bhakti also we can get perfection?
Yes.
Is it being said simple in that sense?
Yes. Simple in sense, also in the sense of executing it.
If you go a little deeply, then it becomes very difficult.
You don't have to touch your toes.
Okay.
Right?
So following in practice becomes very difficult.
Yeah, now everything is difficult, but some things are more difficult. Yes.
Vedanta we have this Nama Adi Vir Chaturthi, Nama Adi Vir Yoga Chaturthi. So in Nama, always these Chaturthi. So Nomi will have the same meaning. So why is this special meaning is taken? Like you also say Namaste. That's also fourth is used. Namaste. Here Nomi is also used with that fourth case. So special meaning, does it come for all the time for Nama is used, or is it for Nama and other
No,
similar?
this Naumi is not Namas. Why you are saying?
Yes, I know.
So why you are saying that this will take fourth case? It is only Namas which takes fourth case. Namas is a avyaya. Naumi is a verb. Naumi is a verb. Aham Naumi. It is a nu dhatu, nu. Nu stavane.
The Nam is also a dhatu then, right?
No, there is a nam is a dhatu, namu prabhane. That becomes namate, namata, namanti. That should have become namami. Like you say pranamami, pranamami sada guru pada padam. That is a different dhatu, and nu stavana is a different dhatu. So this naumi is coming from nu. It's not coming from nama dhatu. So there is a namas avyaya and there is a nama dhatu. These are two separate things. And this naumi has nothing to do with namas or nama dhatu. It is a separate dhatu.
Nama Adi beat is used there. The Nomi is not included in that Adi.
No. That nama adi is that swaha, swadha, Krishnaya swaha, Pitribhya
Yes.
swadha. That adi includes. Those are all avyayas.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Babaji, yes, question.
Yeah.
So the question is again with this yogi thing. So yogis they give up the yoga and they become bhaktas. The question is like here it is mentioned they do hearing and chanting. The question is why would they do that? Because they already have such mental power. They could just use the mind to focus on the form of Krishna like Sri Vaishnavas do. Wouldn't that be superior form of absorption than hearing and chanting?
So hearing and chanting is something allergic about that, or?
So I would say that if the mind is so strong, then just
Yeah,
doing
but
meditation
it's
on
also pleasure to do that, hearing and chanting. And it is also pleasing to Krishna. It's not just that you can also hear with strong mind and chant with strong mind. Just because they have strong mind doesn't mean that they only meditate. Okay.